What's one thing you can do to improve the impact of your images? We're talking about backgrounds on today's episode of
Ask David Bergman.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Here I am, as always, answering your photography questions. If you've got photo questions, you know what to do. Go to askdavidbergman.com, submit your question right there on the site. I just might pick it to answer here on a future show. So full disclosure, this was actually not a question that was sent in by a viewer, but it is something that I see an awful lot, especially when I do a one-on-one consultation with somebody or a portfolio review with photographers, especially for sports and live event shooters, people who shoot concerts and those kinds of things, wedding photographers. I see this an awful lot and is it a constant problem? So I wanted to bring it up here on the show. What this is about is the backgrounds, right? Backgrounds in your images can be a distraction and actually ruin your foreground if not used properly. So let's do this. Today's question is from David B. And David wants to know, how important is the background in your images? Thanks so much for sending in that question, David B. I really appreciate it. But in all seriousness, today I really want to talk about the importance of backgrounds. Now, when you compose a photograph, whether you're setting up a portrait or just shooting an event, whatever it is, you're reacting to something quickly, your pictures should read. And what I mean by that is it should be able to be understood by your viewer immediately, as fast as possible. Ideally, it should just hit your viewer in the face, right? Because you want them to know exactly where to look. When you compose an image, you're actually telling your viewer where you want them to look. Those are the best kinds of photographs, in my opinion, where you don't have to search around and try to figure out what's really happening here. It should just hit you in the face, right? So, of course, the foreground, the subject of your image, is the most important, obviously, but a bad background, a distracting background, can really ruin a great foreground if you don't do it right. The background should not distract. It should either enhance or add to your foreground, or ideally just stay out of the way, right? If it pulls your eye away from your subject, then it's going to have a negative impact on your image. Now, I did a previous 2-minute tip video a number of years ago about backgrounds when you're out in the field and trying to watch for different things, and I gave 3 pointers there. I said the background should be solid, it should be dark, and it should be far away and out of focus. And those are all really great things to do when you're composing your background. All that put together is really about keeping your background clean, right? Not a messy, dirty background, but a very clean background that, again, does not distract from your images. Now, I'm going to give you some examples. This is some good and bad from my own work to show you exactly what I'm talking about and give you some real-world ideas how this works. Now, we're going to go back to 1994. Yes, I was 4 years old when I was shooting the AFC Championship game. This was the Chargers at the Steelers. I was working for the Miami Herald. Of course, I was a little older than 4, but nevertheless, and I got this picture of a blocked field goal, and I was very excited to get this play. I nailed it. I feel like, I had the guy flying through the air, and the ball is there, and everything's really working for me. And I was very happy. I was very young. It was early in my career, and I used this picture in my portfolio for a number of years after that. I look back at it now, honestly, not a very good picture. Why? It doesn't read. It takes a second, right? When you look at it, you don't quite know what to look at immediately. Once you look at it for a few seconds, you figure it out. Okay, I see it, blocked field goal. If you know football, you kind of know what's going on there. However, it doesn't really have the impact, and that background takes away from the foreground, right? Once you start looking at that background, there's all those people back there. There's other photographers, people on the sides. There's that shed or whatever. I can't tell what that thing is back there. Anybody who knows the old Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh, maybe let me know in the comments what that is, why that thing is on the sidelines. I haven't seen that anywhere else in a modern stadium, something like that. But the picture just doesn't read very well. Fast forward about 13 years to 2007, and now I've been around the block a few times. I'm working for Sports Illustrated, and I know a little bit more about what I'm doing with backgrounds. And there's another 2 teams are lining up to kick a field goal, and at this point now, I know I have to move myself to go in a better position to clean up that background. So I run, after third down, I run all the way to the back of the other end zone, and when they take the kick and it's blocked, this is what it looks like. And that is a completely different photograph, right? I've put myself in a position where the background, you can see the goalposts. I wanted the kicker right in the middle, so the goalposts, you could see them right framing where the ball is going. And then if those linemen get their big paws up in the air and block that field goal, I'm going to have a good picture of it. I was focused on the defensive lineman there, so that anticipating a block. Now, I'm also trying to think ahead if it's not blocked, which most of the time it's not. Hopefully the kicker, if it's a game-winning field goal, he's going to turn around and come running straight at me, and that's going to be a great picture as well with a cleaner background. But you can't possibly prepare for every scenario, but you're trying to anticipate what could happen and putting yourself in that position where the background is not going to distract from the foreground. Here's another example. If you're doing a portrait and you really have the opportunity to put your subject wherever you want to, and you can move wherever you want. Here I am with Angie out in Central Park, and this picture, it's not, there's something a little off about it, and it really is that background. The bright sky, the blown out white sky, and the dark trees in the bottom half of the frame really pulls your eye away. Your eye tends to go to the brightest part of an image first, so it tends to pull your eye away from the subject, and I really want you to see Angie first and not be all distracted by that background. So then I moved her and I moved myself, and I was able to clean up that background and put her right in front of just solid trees, and it's a completely different photograph. She's doing the exact same pose, and there's really nothing crazy going on there. I'm not really lighting it or anything, but just to demonstrate the background, it shows that just by changing that background does have a huge impact on the foreground. A couple more quick examples. This is a concert photograph of Luke Combs, and it's not a very good picture as far as concert photographs go, but look at that background, right? It feels a little off, and your viewer, may not really know why, but we know as photographers and as creative people, we know what's going on here, and it's really about that background. There's the light going through his head, and even it's a little off center kind of, right? The left side is just so much dead space, and on the right we have that light going through his head. It just doesn't feel balanced. It doesn't feel right. Whereas when you see that, if you can pay attention while you're shooting, if you're, like I said, a wedding photographer, an event photographer, and of course you're concentrating on your subject, but just glance at that background. All you have to do in this case is move 3 to 6 inches to your right, and all of a sudden now it looks like this. And that's a completely different picture. Again, ignore the foreground. It's not really a great concert picture. But to demonstrate that background now, it's a bit more pleasing. It frames him. It's a little more even. And it just feels nicer. One last quick example. Again, back in the newspaper days when I was at the Miami Herald, I had to do a portrait of a diver. And I got to the pool, and the pool deck all around on the ground level was just a mess, right? There's stuff everywhere, right? There's all the accoutrements for the divers and the swimmers, and I couldn't find a clean background to try to do a portrait. And I was going to have her diving, and it just would have been a mess as she was on her way down, and it'd be bright sky and messy things. So I had to figure out what to do. Well, the best way to photograph a diver and have a clean background is from above, of course. So I went up all the way up on the top board that I could find. I don't know what that is, 40 meters up or something like that. It sure felt like that. It was not a whole lot of fun being up there and looking straight down, but nevertheless, it was the best thing that I could do to really get a clean background. And obviously, when you're photographing a diver or swimmer, having that pool color underneath certainly adds to the image. It doesn't pull away, and it doesn't disappear. You do see it, but it definitely adds to the image because you see that it's a pool, and it makes sense in that case, right? So my point is, pay attention to your backgrounds, whether you just use it to completely disappear, or it adds to your background, to your subject, and to your foreground. If it doesn't add, if it pulls away, you need to make a change. Either move yourself or move further away so it goes more out of focus. Whatever you have to do to get that background to just go away and not be a distraction is going to go a long way to adding impact to your images. What do you guys think? How much attention do you pay to the background in your images? Let me know down in the comments below. Of course, if you're not a subscriber to the Adorama TV YouTube channel, why the heck not? Go ahead and click that button. Use the little bell icon. Of course, you'll be notified as soon as new photo shows come out all week long. And then remember, AskDavidBergman.com to submit your photo questions. I'm back here every Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern with a brand new question. I hope you'll come back and join me next week right here on Ask David Bergman.